Hi, welcome back. This is the third video that I'm making. Uh, there, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, I'm really sorry. I remembered that I wanted to record this process already when I already started, but we're fine. I was invited for a publication in Argentina, and they're asking several illustrators to make a comic, a short 3-page comic about how are we spending quarantine. And I love the guys that run the editorial. They're great people, super talented artists. So I said yes. Baby girl, what's happening? Going out in the nighttime. Baby girl, what's happening? You know what causes my mind to stay in the darkest parts. You just keep breaking my heart. Baby girl, what's happening? Come out in the nighttime. Baby girl, what's happening? Going out in the nighttime. Baby girl, what's happening? You know what causes my mind to stay in the darkest parts. You just keep breaking my heart. Baby girl, what's happening? Come out in the nighttime. I was stuck in aesthetic. I was stuck in technical stuff. So I tried to explore emotion a little bit more in this one. And I try to be explicit. I try to use explicit imagery and explicit text. I thought it would be healthy for me too as a therapy to just vent and put it out there. And I realized that the literature, the poetry that I'm used to, the one that I admire is very implicit, like it's very referential. It doesn't really, it's very vague. And I feel like I developed a fear of saying explicit things, what I'm feeling in an explicit way. And part of that was because I related a lot emotionality, like expression of emotion, with being a teenager and being that caricature of a very emotional and unstable and immature being. So since then I hid a lot in metaphor, I hid a lot in symbolism. I don't want to be pretentious, and I realize that my way to express myself is with a very basic and straightforward language. I try to be less scared, because this is what the comic is about. Is about me facing a lot of shit that I didn't want to deal with for the longest time, and then quarantine is bringing back. So I should face them in a straightforward way, just like the way that I'm facing and that I'm approaching this small project. I have anxiety. I went through many doctors and they all said that I have anxiety, and one said that I had depression, but like that diagnosis never repeated itself. So I think it was just because of the circumstances of my life back then that made me a really depressed person. I also deal with trauma that comes from abuse, and I transformed all the pain into productivity and walks. I usually go out and walk until I'm sweating, and I've been walking for hours through the entire city, and I that's how I used to vomit, all that energy that was encapsulated in me. And I wasn't doing it for a while, and you could tell in my mental state that I needed to move. And I was coming to terms with starting doing it more, and then we got locked down, so I couldn't do it. And a lot of things started to surface again. Fear of death is a huge thing. If for me, like, anxiety is the illness of time. You project and you just jump into another stage of time. Like I get anxious about the future a lot, and collective hysteria has made me really susceptible to fear of death. Not only because a lot of people is dying in the world, but also because the past month I had to deal with the loss of 2 people. First, it was very unexpected. It was a friend that I didn't know very well. We didn't really talk that much. We weren't intimate, but it was someone I knew. It was someone that I shared a conversation with, and my head couldn't accept the idea that he was gone and that he won't be around, like he just disappeared. And a weekend later, my grandfather died. And he got me into art. He gave me my first art supplies, So for me, fear of death was always this imaginary, well, not imaginary, but it was always so far from me. But at this point it became real. So that just makes me scared of my partner dying, my family dying, friends dying, especially because my partner lives in the US, and the US right now is like in a very fucked up situation. And all this depression makes me spiral into having suicidal thoughts, which is something that I've been dealing with since 2016, and I'm trying really hard to stay away from that. And I'm trying my best to stay out of it, but I think that it's important for me to talk about these things. this episode is about exposing your feelings without being ashamed of your feelings. Because for the longest time, I've been ashamed of what I feel. I've been shamed for feeling too much. I've been shamed for feeling in love, for showing love. And that is something that I want to stop. I don't want to feel ashamed of what I feel. And whenever I make these comics that are, or tell these stories that are super personal, and I have to use a very childlike language to express myself because that's the only way that I know, I don't want to feel ashamed by doing it. I don't want to feel over dramatic or oversensitive, because that's a judgment that society has put on me, and eventually I put on myself. And I just don't want to be scared of being emotional anymore. I usually struggle with showing emotion because I'm a very emotional person. So when the time comes to make art, I already cried, I already laughed, I already ranted, I already got angry. So when I have blank paper in front of me, I just don't have any emotions left to squeeze out of my body. But right now I'm feeling so much, like I feel like I'm overflowing. So I just decided to put that on paper. Probably looks super dramatic, but at the same time, this is a very real thing, and I'm also aware that there's people out there that is in a worse place than me. I'm very lucky for the people that surround me. I'm very lucky for the friends I have. I'm very lucky for the support system that I built and that other people helped build. So I think I will be fine. But I cannot deny that is tough time for me. I'm skipping school. Like I took days off because I honestly can't. I can't deal with people right now that are not my friends, that is not my lover, that is not, people that is very intimate and close to me. So yeah, I just have to try to cope with the situation.
Do you hear that sound? It hurts me, but I won't fight. I got this frown, but I feel just fine. Everyone come together now. Do you hear that sound? Clap together and spin around. Do you hear that sound? Everyone come together now. Do you hear that sound? Clap together and spin around. Do you hear that sound? I told her just last night, the storm looks so bright. She looks at me like I'm not alive. Like I'm not alive. Everyone come together now. Do you hear that sound? Clap together and spin around. Do you hear that sound? Everyone come together now. Do you hear that sound? Clap together and spin around. Do you hear that sound? Twilight.
I have nowhere to run from my body, from trauma, from anxiety. I was chasing nothing to not face everything. Now I have nowhere to run. Fear of the end watches. Death got into my house twice in a month. Will you disappear too? If you leave, I go with you. The desire has come back, and I'm alone with it. I hope that in the next page, I can't get out of here. Ugh, I really needed that. I really needed to take that out of my chest.